Would someone like to make a motion to return the regular board meeting to public session? Mr. Borenstein, is there a second? Dr. Marinero, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. I'd like to call the regular board meeting to order. All board members are present. Mr. Scanzuso, would you lead us, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Please be advised that in the event of a fire emergency and an evacuation should be necessary, an alarm will sound. Please note all the marked emergency exits and evacuate well away from the building. At this time, we do request that everyone turn their cell phones and other electronic devices into their silent mode, please. Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Mr. Mecca, second. Mrs. Leatherbarrow, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Recognition, Dr. Martzloff.
Thank you, Mr. LeMay. Straight off a huge weekend that included a police escort back to school Saturday night, we are thrilled to welcome Williamsville's own 2019 New York State Class A softball champions for recognition tonight. This team of amazing student athletes capped off a perfect 27-0 season with 2 shutouts in the state semifinal and final, earning the first state title for a girls' athletic team from Williamsville East. What makes us especially proud, besides the obvious hard work and talent of these young athletes, is the good sportsmanship and camaraderie they demonstrate both on and off the field. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that 2 girls' athletics teams brought state championships home to Williamsville this year, with the district's varsity girls hockey team securing their state championship in February. Tonight, we celebrate the Flames. It is my great pleasure to introduce East High School Principal Brian Swatland, who will present tonight's special recognition.
Good evening, and thank you to Dr. Martzloff and the Board of Ed for recognizing our amazing accomplishments of our softball team. You always steal everybody's thunder before they come up here with your speech, so if there is some redundancy, I do apologize. It's a tremendous honor to stand before you and stand before our team and our school, and as you had said, this is the second state championship in school history. What's more impressive, 27-0. And the team finished ranked number 9 in the nation. The collective talent of this team is really second to none. I would like to publicly congratulate the team, thank them for boosting our school's Twitter account. We gained 30 followers in the last week. And thank the community who supported this team and turned out in the rain after the police and fire escort to welcome them home. It is my pleasure to introduce Coach Durr.
Well, we just like to thank the board for inviting us tonight. It's been quite a run, and I couldn't give this team a speech after the game because I was so emotional, and I'm getting emotional now because there's just such a great group of young ladies, and they're fun to be around, and they're great students, and we're a scholar athlete team on top of being 27-0 and ranked 9th in the country. So I want to thank you for recognizing us this evening, and maybe we can repeat next year, but it's just a great group of kids, and I've been along for the ride all year as their coach, so they're a wonderful group of ladies, so thank you. Okay, we have, first we have senior and co-captain Rachel Steffen. You can head over here and onto that. And we have senior and co-captain Christy Mack. Sophomore Abby Stulrick. Senior Maddie Lane. Senior Maddie Miskey. Junior Kayla Twilliger. Sophomore Julia Warzowski. Junior Chelsea McNamara. Junior Mara Wannett. Senior Cara Leone. Sophomore Summer Clark. Sophomore Bree Willick. And 8th grader Ella Wesolowski.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be in the picture.
Tenure.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. We'll take a
Thank you. Are there any other board acknowledgements this evening? No? Okay, Mrs. Beeger, would you please read the board's public expression policy?
Sure. Welcome to all who have come to observe this regular board meeting. Per policy 1510, the board has set aside 30 minutes for public expression, a time when we invite members of the community to share ideas and concerns with us. We welcome this opportunity to hear from you. Each person is given up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. You will be signaled with a yellow flag at 2.5 minutes so that you may conclude your remarks. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not be engaging in dialogue with members of the community this evening. Rest assured, we are listening carefully and we take seriously what you have to say. I would also like to ask that you demonstrate respect for us and for one another by speaking to the issues, giving us your ideas, sharing your opinions, but not engaging in any personal attack. Thank you for your cooperation. And we do not have anyone signed up for public expression this evening. Was there anyone that wanted to speak to the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 7 personnel, 8 business, and 9 special needs and student activities as presented? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, is there a second? Mrs. Beeger, is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Dr. Martzoff, do we have a new principal this evening, I believe?
Yes, we do. I'd like to introduce the Board of Education to our newly appointed principal at Maple East Elementary School, Dr. Bill Bowen. Dr. Bowen has been an assistant principal at Transit Middle School for a number of years and is very familiar with our district and has done a wonderful job there at Transit, and we have no reason to think he won't continue his outstanding advocacy for students and families at Maple East as their new principal. Welcome to the new position, Dr. Bowen, and please come forward and say a few words.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Martzloff, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am both humbled and honored to be appointed tonight to the position of Maple East Elementary School Principal. And I would like to thank Dr. Martzloff and our assistant superintendents and our Williamsville School Board for your endorsement tonight. I would also like to recognize my amazing colleagues and friends at Transit Middle School. I started my administrative career at Transit Middle School 11 years ago. I met a lot of great people, and I just really have to thank them for all of their support along the way. I especially have to thank the Maple East faculty and staff who served on each interview committee. From the moment I walked in the room, I just felt their positive energy, and it was evident that everyone involved cared deeply about their students and the school. And working together with you and the rest of the Maple East faculty and staff, I'm confident that Maple East will continue to lead the way when it comes to encouraging, nurturing, and challenging all students to reach their full potential. Thank you again to our Williamsville School Board, to Dr. Martzloff, and for everyone here for all of your support along the way and your well wishes. Thank you very much. I'm very excited to start.
I would like to thank the following retirees for their service to the district. Darlene Andrews, Dodge Elementary Teacher Aide for 17 years, 9 months of service. Fran Arcura, I hope I got that right. North High School, 10-month clerk typist, 25 years and 9 months of service. James Bruno, transportation bus driver for 29 years and 4 months of service. Deborah Kenyon, Dodge Elementary Health Aide for 14 years, 8 months of service. Leo Mazur, transportation bus driver, 32 years and 2 months of service. William McConkey, transportation bus driver for 9 years, 9 months of service. Susan Region from Mill Middle Health Aide, 15 years, 5 months of service. And Sherry Steinbrenner, Country Parkway Teacher's Aide for 25 years and 9 months of service. Someone like to make a motion to take the May 9th special board meeting minutes from the table, please. Mrs. Van Cise, is there a second? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. So now that it's on the table, would someone like to make a motion to approve the May 9th special board meeting minutes? Dr. McClary, is there a second? Mrs. Beeger, are there any corrections or additions to these minutes? All in favor?
I wasn't here.
Opposed? Substained? Excuse me, sustained, yeah, abstained. Dr. Marinero, I think you're on the abstained list?
Yes.
Okay, just double checking. So motion carries 603. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the May 28th regular board meeting minutes? Mr. Meyer, second. Mrs. Leatherbarrow, are there any corrections to these minutes? All in favor? Denied? Abstained? Motion carries 702. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the tenure recommendations as presented? Mr. Meyer, is there a second? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations to all those that are getting tenure this evening.
Yes, I just want to say congratulations to all of our teachers and administrators who are earning tenure this evening. Certainly it is a terrific milestone in one's career and well-deserved. Williamsville certainly has an arduous process to undertake in order to achieve tenure, and you should be very proud, and we're very pleased that I was able to recommend you for tenure and that the board accepted that recommendation, and congratulations to all of you. Would anyone like to come to the podium who just earned tenure and say a few words?
Good evening, Board of Education. So nice to see you all. Andrew Bowen, principal of Country Parkway Elementary School. While I've not been recommended for tenure, I have 4 faculty members who have been. I want to introduce them to you very briefly and give them a moment to come up front to say hello to you as well. The first teacher is Tom Marinero. Tom is actually split between Maple East and Country Parkway. He's our band teacher, and if I had to describe Tom in one phrase, it would be he's the Pied Piper for 4th graders. And in fact, everyone I would venture to guess, everyone at Country Parkway knows who Mr. Marinero is. He makes great connections with kids. Our second tenure recipient this evening is Melissa Dobmeyer. Melissa Hopkins. She recently was married. Melissa was a late summer hire 4 years ago and has spent a Labor Day in the trenches getting a classroom ready, and she has worked hard ever since. She has pushed herself to improve her craft instructionally, and I couldn't be more proud of her, and her students are in a wonderful place when they enter her classroom. The next teacher is Joy Hardbattle. Joy is a 2nd grade teacher who was a long-term sub for a gifted and talented position for 1 year, and then we brought her on full-time as a probationary teacher. One word to describe Joy: creative. She has brought an extra dose of creativity to all of her lessons, making them very engaging, and she is also a wonderful addition to our staff, introducing a lot of STEM activities into her classroom routines. And finally, if I had to say what an ideal school would be, it would be a school that has a library as the hub of activity. And I'm very pleased to announce that at Country Parkway, the library is the hub of activity, and that's due to our librarian, who is our final tenure recipient, Beth Roy. So thank you again for your positive endorsement. All 4 of these wonderful faculty members will make a wonderful long-term addition to our staff.
Good evening again. Brian Swatland, principal of East. I have the pleasure of introducing 3 faculty members at East that are receiving tenure tonight. The first is Courtney Costanzo, who is a math teacher and is also one of the director of Band Against Bullying. And we were on a few-year run, but fortunately we lost this year. We didn't hold that against her or anything, so. Second, we have Emily Novak, who is also a math teacher in our highly regarded math department. She, in addition, works tirelessly in the school and is also our assistant soccer coach for the girls. And then our last teacher is Melinda O'Donnell, who's an ESOL teacher, and she, just like the others, she is very embedded in the school community. She works countless events, chaperones field trips, and I couldn't be more proud of our 3 teachers. Thank you.
Good evening. We have 5 teachers at North High School who have received tenure this evening. First is Nick Del Bello, who's actually a music teacher. He works in all 3 of our high schools. I don't think he's here this evening, but I want to congratulate him for receiving tenure this evening. Also, we have Bill Caputa, who is a science teacher in our building, who's here to my right. So congratulations, Mr. Caputa. We have Kate Hitchkis, who is an amazing math teacher in our building as well. Kate's to my right as well. And Jessica Reese, who is a phys ed teacher. She actually is also a coach. She coaches field hockey in our building, and her team went to the state championship game this past fall. So, and Kate, congratulations. And Jessica. And we have Kate Curcio, who is an English teacher in our building as well. Ms. Curcio also is a co-advisor of our yearbook club. Our yearbook actually won a gold medal last year, and we have another amazing yearbook this year as well. Awesome job, Kate. So congratulations to all 5 of our tenure recipients.
This is how we're supposed to do it. Ellen Shab, Michelle Bigger, congratulations. Come on up and say a few words.
Thanks, Mr. Smilnich. I'm Michelle Bigger, and I'm an ESL teacher at Dodge. So I would just like to give a heartfelt thank you to the entire Board of Education, Dr. Martzloff, Mrs. Buffamonte, and Mr. Smilnich. When I applied for a position in Williamsville, I left a tenured position as an ESL teacher for 15 years in another district. And I said, if I'm going to leave, I'm going to go for the best. And when I got the job and I accepted the position, a colleague and retired ESL teacher from my district said, be prepared to be respected. And I'm going to get emotional. And I am, and I feel really grateful. And as a mom of a first grader at Maple West, I see all that you do for children. And as a teacher, I see all that you do for children and how you treat the teachers. And it doesn't happen everywhere, and I just want to say thank you. I'm Ellen Shab, a second grade teacher at Dodge, and I also get to be a parent of 2 children in the district. I'd like to thank Dr. Martzloff and the board for granting me tenure. I'm so grateful as a teacher and a parent for all you've invested in kids as individuals and providing opportunities for kids. And I have worked in 4 districts, lots of buildings. I was tenured as a special ed teacher in the district, and I know how lucky I am to be at Dodge and have the support of Mr. Smilnich and Mrs. Buffamonte and have them continually challenging and pushing me to be a better teacher, providing opportunities and helping me build better relationships with kids. So I couldn't do it without my fellow teachers and teammates, so I am so grateful for everyone for this opportunity. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jason Smith, principal at Maple West. We have 2 Maple West teachers tonight who are receiving tenure. Lisa Torgalski, a kindergarten teacher who couldn't be here tonight because they're cleaning up from our Ready, Set, Go night for incoming kindergartners, where I just came from. But she's an amazing teacher, very collaborative, very passionate, very student-centered, and she does a wonderful job. And we also have Megan Taylor, who I know is here tonight, so I'm going to ask her to come up. ESL teacher who, again, passionate individual, you know, very strong student advocate, very collaborative, very creative, very organized, and does a wonderful job with kids, and we're lucky to have both of them.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Megan Taylor, and this is my 4th year at Maple West. I'm a Western New Yorker all my life, but I worked in just outside of Washington, D.C. for 4 years, and then my husband and I decided to move back, and honestly, I was never expecting in a million years to get a job in Williamsville that early on in my career, because it's such a privilege and a district with such a great reputation. So I'm so thankful for the many opportunities I've had since I've been here, and to Dr. Martzloff and Dr. Gluzzo, Mr. Smith, and Mrs. Kubera, and I'm looking forward to a great future. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Harding. I'm the assistant principal at Casey Middle School. I stood before the board 4 years ago, joyous and invigorated, as I was being appointed as a new assistant principal. I was a teacher on summer vacation at the time, so I think my biggest challenge was the fact that my 6 and my 5-year-old were in the room, sort of losing their mind and untucking their shirts and not really knowing how to deal with a Board of Education meeting. But since that time, I've had a lot of opportunities to reflect and grow, and I want to say that I appreciate all those opportunities that have come as a result of the trust that's been placed in me. I've learned a lot about principaling, and I can honestly say that I continue to learn each day. Administration can be a challenging and sometimes thankless job, but it's a job that I don't know if I'd have another option ahead of this. This is what I want to do. So I feel very fortunate, and I feel blessed that you've placed trust in me as an educator, the board, Dr. Martzloff, and the leadership team. And I also feel blessed that I had an opportunity to work at both South High School and now at Casey Middle School, which is just beyond a dream for me. The staff there is so professional and really the most committed group of educators that I've ever worked with. So I know that the Casey community is sometimes referred to as Casey land and it's fantasy land, but it truly is a great place to work. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Keith Boardman at South and also Pete Dobmeyer for everything that he has done for me. Pete is a dynamic and transcendent leader, and I hope you all recognize that. He's more than just a middle school principal, and I feel very fortunate. I'm not always a huge believer in everything happens for a reason, but I would say that me being at Casey is certainly serendipitous. So I appreciate everything, and I'll continue to give all of myself. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Mike Antonelli. I'm assistant principal at Heim Middle School. I'd first like to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to the Board of Education, Dr. Martzloff, the assistant superintendents, everyone at district office, and especially everybody at Heim Middle School. Mr. Jakluski, the faculty, and the staff have made the last 4 years great, and I'm truly grateful for the experience. Since coming to Williamsville, I've experienced and witnessed so many amazing educators, quality professional development, and many other experiences, all helping me better myself to support and foster the success of our students. It is rewarding to work in a district that believes in educating the whole student and not just the test score, focusing on things like mindfulness, restorative practices, social emotional learning, and always putting our students first. It's truly what I love about education at Williamsville. Thank you for the opportunity to continue to work with your students. It's a pleasure. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Jump back to Country Parkway. My name is Melissa Hopkins. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Country Parkway. I want to thank Dr. Martzloff, Mr. Bowen, and the Board of Ed for extending the offer of tenure my way. It's an honor to work in Williamsville. I'm also a graduate of the Williamsville School, so it's definitely a major and special thing to be back here. It's even more special that I get to work at Country Parkway, where I went to school, alongside some of the teachers who inspired me to be an educator. I adore my students, their families, and my colleagues. I learn something new from them each and every day. I'm eager and excited to continue my career, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Good evening. My name is Alexis Langhire, and thank you so much, Dr. Martzloff, Board of Education, for the opportunity to speak here this evening and for the appointment of tenure. As a business teacher, I think a lot, and I've taught a lot about wise investments. What makes a wise investment? What's the long-term value? And I'm so grateful to be part of what I believe to be the greatest investment that we can make, and that is educating our kids and investing in our communities for the ever-changing world. Accepting my position after a long tenure at another district certainly came with some trepidation, but also a lot of excitement. So in my world, a perfect adventure. And with that adventure came a lot of questions like, how would I continue to invest in kids in a much larger community? What new school traditions could I be part of, or would I have the opportunity to make? And who would be my teacher tribe? Because us teachers know we can't do it without one another. I'm grateful for what I've discovered since then. I'm grateful for the many ways that I've been able to teach and mentor kids, both in the classroom of a myriad of different curriculum, but also DECA and Link Crew and coaching and many more opportunities. I'm grateful for the group of committed and driven and passionate teachers that I get to wake up and join every day, who make doing this work that is sometimes challenging, but oh so rewarding, such a joy to do it alongside them. I'm thankful to have found such a tribe. And I'm grateful for the support from leadership, both at South, but also here at the district level, and certainly from the Board of Education with the policies and the what's been put in place again and again to put kids first. Thank you so much for your continued support. I'm so excited to continue this journey of raising up exceptional leaders here in Williamsville. We have much work to do, and I'm thrilled to continue to be a part of that. Thank you so much for your commitment and for entrusting me with this great work.
Hi, I'm Kim Stewicki, third grade teacher at Forest Elementary. It's an honor and a privilege to stand here today. Several years ago, my educational path led me to this wonderful district. In my senior year of college, when I had to put down my first choice for student teaching, I chose Williamsville. A lot of my classmates were choosing their hometown schools or neighboring districts. I set my sights on learning from the best. I was fortunate enough to work with two wonderful cooperating teachers, one at Forest and one at Mill Middle School. Upon graduation, I interviewed and was hired at Forest Elementary, a dream come true. I taught for 6 years on the 4th grade team and took a maternity leave and went on to have 6 kids of my own. When my youngest son was starting kindergarten, I knew in my heart I wanted to return to my teaching career. I cannot tell you the joy I felt when I was hired to teach 3rd grade at Forest. The moment I stepped through the doors, it was like coming home again. I would like to thank Dr. Martzloff, the Board of Education, my colleagues, and my very supportive principal, Mr. Keith Wing. Thank you for the opportunity to work with the amazing students and families in this district. It's great to be back.
Hi, back to Country Parkway. I am Beth Roy, the school librarian. Thank you, Dr. Martzloff and Board of Education for this honor. I appreciate so much the opportunity to work in the Williamsville district. My experience so far has been wonderful here. I came from a very small rural district where our entire district was smaller than my Country Parkway Elementary School. So, and I started mid-year, and it was very nerve-wracking to begin mid-year and have such a change in demographic. But Andrew Bowen, thank you so much for hiring me, Andrew. He's been so supportive. The Country Parkway School is a wonderful place to work. It's so nurturing to our students. They have high expectations, but the well-being of the students comes first, and it's a very caring environment. My colleagues are wonderful, and I love having district librarians to work with. I was the only librarian in my district, so there's a little isolating, and it's a wonderful district of librarians who have been so welcoming and helpful, and I look forward to many years here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd be a joy up here. My name is Thomas Marinero. I am fortunate enough to work at Country Parkway and Maple East Elementary. I want to thank the Board of Education, Dr. Martzloff, Ms. Mihalik, Mr. Bowen for supporting me every step of the way. I came from a district where music wasn't the thing. So to be one of the many music teachers in this district and to feel so supported and to get to learn from our children is super important to me. So I appreciate you all, and I look forward to educating many more years of children.
Hi, Joy Hardbattle, 2nd grade teacher at Country Parkway Elementary. I'd like to extend my thanks to Dr. Martzloff and the entire board, and to Mr. Bowen and Rebecca Skinner for their continual support for my somewhat new journey into the classroom. As Mr. Bowen said, I was a long-term sub as a gifted specialist, and that's what my area of expertise was for many years in another district. So I feel very fortunate to have the support network that I do through my principal and Rebecca Skinner, as well as my 2nd grade team. I don't have anything cute and creative to say, and Teachers Pay Teachers didn't have a speech for this, so I guess I can just say that I wholeheartedly agree with everything that everyone else has said, and what a great opportunity this has been for me, and I plan to have many more years here in Williamsville, so thank you.
Last chance. Going once, going twice. I would like to call a short recess here, and oh, we got one more. He did say sold, sorry.
Good evening, my name is Dave Ring. I teach middle school, 6th grade at Mill Middle School. I try not to miss any opportunities to speak, so here I am. I would just like to thank the Board of Education for all the opportunities. Dr. Martzloff, I'd like to thank you as well. Dr. McGinley, I teach math. He's been extremely supportive, and that's why Williamsville is #1 in math 10 years in a row. I was hired in 2010 as a part-time TA here at Casey Middle School. Dan Wall and Fran McGreevy hired me, so I'd like to thank them. And I got to work with Pete Dobmeyer quite a bit, which was a fantastic opportunity. I transitioned over to Mill Middle School 4 years ago. Now, I heard that tenure was supposed to take 3 to 4 years. It's taken me almost 10, so that's okay. But here we are, so I think I should get the record for that. I stuck it out. We joke about it, but it really is the greatest district that you could work at, and we work with the greatest families. We work with the best kids, and it's a joy to come to work every day. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Okay, we'll try this one more time. Going once, twice. All right. We'd like to invite everybody here. We're going to take a short recess and have a short reception here to honor all the new tenured employees. If you please stick around and join us in the back for some cake and beverage. As the reception finishes up there, I would like to call Mr. Chrisman to the podium, please, to present the National School Development Council's Cooperative Leadership Award.
I will say that as a former superintendent, this is usually what happened when I went in the faculty room. You know, I could clear out you want anyone out of there? Nope, I just walk in and say hello. But anyway, I have had the opportunity to serve as a school superintendent for 22 years. And I know this number only because I used it at my retirement party a few years ago. But during that time, I participated in 652 board meetings during my career. And I have to say to you that there were very few that matched tonight. And what you heard from all of those people, I'm sure reflects this school district and the leadership of this school district and the quality of your professional staff. And you have every right to be very proud of this, the accomplishments of your staff. You don't have a great school district without great people, and it's obviously clear that that's what your staff feels about this district. You would not be familiar with the National School Development Council, but it was formally chartered in 1969 as a nonprofit organization whose mission is to develop schools and school districts to produce student excellence across the United States. School study and development councils began at Harvard University in the 1940s and spread across the country before they're being chartered. To be a member of the National Staff Development Council requires an Educational Service Council, which is an outside organization, nonprofit typically, to be affiliated with a college or a university. The New York State Leadership Group that I have the opportunity to serve as executive director of is a partner with SUNY Buffalo State. There is a group at SUNY Buffalo as well. Annually, the National School Development Council selects one individual, to receive its prestigious Cooperative Leadership Award. The purpose of this award is to recognize outstanding leadership within the NSDC member study councils, including exemplary efforts to establish cooperative relationships with other educational organizations in the course of creating programs for the nation's schools. NSDC members across the United States, from California to Texas to Maine, and there are about 35 of these organizations across the state. The one state we stay out of is Texas, but that's an aside. But they get to nominate one person to receive this award. The New York State Leadership Group nominated Dr. Scott Martzloff based on his many contributions to those educators seeking to become administrators. He has also been a mentor to many of his superintendent colleagues who continue to seek his advice and counsel. His courage as a school leader is well known and highly respected. The New York State Leadership Group and SUNY Buffalo State are honored to have his involvement in our programs. The group takes all of the nominations that come in, and again, there's a large number, and we have a conference call to review the paperwork of each of the nominees. Now, you can't imagine the challenge of 35 educators talking all at the same time, but we somehow work our way through it. And following a vote of the Board of Directors, Dr. Arthur Betancourt, who is the Executive Director based at Boston College, announced the selection of Dr. Scott Martzloff to receive the 2019 Leadership Award as determined by the Board of Directors. He states that Dr. Martzloff is considered to be a truly inspirational educational leader. His successful efforts to develop teacher, building, and district leaders has positively affected education nationally, but most deeply in Western New York. And with that, they have provided a plaque for me. It's the only thing that I really feel comfortable that comes from Boston, but I would like to present this to Dr. Martzloff. Thank you very much.
Bob, I just want to say thank you for your presentation, and also want to say thank you to our administrators who stuck around. I know they're really here for the next part of the board meeting is about Board of Education high school graduation speakers, but I appreciate them being here for this as well. Thank you very much. They're a great group to work with.
On that note, moving on to the speakers for the next high school graduations coming up here in 2 weeks. To review, for South High School, the graduation is Saturday, June 29th, 6 p.m. That will be located at South High School, and I've pulled up the long-term forecast. It's saying 81 and sunny, so we're going to keep that forecast going. South is outside. I am going to be the board speaker, and I show for attending myself, Mr. Bornstein, Mr. Meyer, and Dr. McClary. Did anybody else want to get added to that list? Going once, twice?
Have that at 6 o'clock, is that right?
6 o'clock, correct. Okay. North High School, following next day, Sunday, June 30th. That will be located at the UB Center of the Arts. That is at 10 a.m. The board speaker there is Mrs. Leatherbarrow. Attendees, I have myself, Mrs. Leatherbarrow, Dr. McClary, Mr. Meyer, and Mrs. Van Sice. Any other additions or changes to that? Good. And East High School, a few hours after that, same location, Sunday, June 30th, the UB Center of the Arts, 3:30 p.m. Myself will be the board speaker, and I will be in attendance, Dr. McClary, Mr. Mecca, and Mr. Meyer. Any additions or changes? Perfect. Moving on. The Erie County Association of School Board Annual Dinner was held on June 6th, 2019 at 5:15 p.m. at Salvatore's on Transit Road. Myself, Dr. McClary, Mr. Mecca, and Mrs. Van Sice were all in attendance. Mrs. Van Sice, could you give us just a quick recap of the event, please?
Yes, this was held at Salvatore's, and it was a dinner with multiple awards that were given out to various districts and individuals for their service, especially if you participate and attend meetings and conferences through Erie County School Board. They had excellent cookies. That was a bonus. And I'd like to point out that Mark Mecca won the basket that our Board of Education donated. Great night.
Usually Mr. Mecca is the one that walks away with 2 or 3 baskets. This year is our basket, but I don't think you've gone undefeated. I think you've always had something every year to take away.
I continued my perfect record of winning at least 1 basket, this time our own.
Congrats. The next thing I have, and thank you, Mrs. Van Sice. The law conference will be at Salvatore's on Wednesday, August 7th. I know details of that finally just came out in email earlier today, so I don't believe it's in our board packet yet. I do have interest right now. I show myself, Dr. McClary, and Mrs. Van Sice. Anybody else have interest? This isn't an all-day event.
I'm interested depending on whether I can make it. I have a couple things on my agenda that day. So
Okay.
it depends on how it works out, but I'll let you know ASAP.
Okay. Let us know as soon as possible. I know there is a fee that goes associated with that, so...
You know if there's a deadline?
I'm sure there is, but I don't have that readily. We'll have it at the next board meeting, though, for sure.
Thank
It'll be
you.
in our board packet then,
They
too.
do sell or fill up or whatever.
They do fill up? Okay, so registering early, kind of like the NISBA conference, is a plus. Does anyone have anything else to report under the Erie County Association of School Boards? Nope. Okay, moving on. New York State School Board Association, the complimentary member reception will be this coming Tuesday, June 25th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Templeton Lannings. I have myself, Mrs. Leatherborough, Mrs. Beeger, Dr. McClary, Mr. Mecca, Mrs. Van Sice, Dr. Martzloff, and Mr. Scanzuso all down for attending. Anybody else like to attend? This is an open invite. All the assistant superintendents are invited. The district clerk is invited. So if anybody else would like to attend, please, we'd welcome it.
Sure.
The 100th annual NISBA convention is going to occur on Thursday, October 25th through Saturday, October 26th in Rochester, New York. There are 2 board members here that will be presenting a class that was approved. So I know for sure there's going to be 2 people in attendance. Who else would like to attend this year?
I might be able to.
Okay, Mr. Bornstein. Anyone else? Think about it. I know the dates. It's a Thursday through a Saturday. I'm trying to remember. Is the pre-conference on the Wednesday or is that the
Thursday,
Thursday?
yeah.
It's the Thursday. So really, the conference is going to dive in the Friday through the Friday and the Saturday.
Registered pre-conference also.
Okay.
I'm a strong maybe.
Strong maybe. Mrs. Leatherbarrow. And Dr. McClary and myself. So Dr. McClary and myself are the 2 that will be presenting a class that we submitted on board relations.
I was just going to say, could you tell us what the class is?
We haven't written the class yet. We only submitted a proposal with a bullet point. So, Dr. McClary?
The title is School Board, Are You Listening?
There we go. Thank you. School board, right? Listening. So we have an hour to present, except I think we're going up against a certain figurine. The commissioner will be speaking at the same time we're teaching, so we're expecting high numbers. Would someone like to make a motion to nominate Linda Hoffman to serve as the Area 1 Director for New York State School Board Association beginning January 1st, 2020 through December 21st, 2021? Dr. McClary, is there a second? Mrs. Beeger, is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Marsoff.
Thank you, Mr. LeMay. As recently informed by the New York State School Boards Association that 3 of our board members who continually expand their governance knowledge and skills have been recognized as reaching a Level 2 Board of Excellence Award, and they enclosed certificates for each of those individuals. So certainly being an excellent board member doesn't just include coming to one Tuesday evening meeting per month. It's much more of an investment than that. So this evening I'd like to present those Board Excellence Awards for Level 2. The first one is to Suzanne Van Sice for her work. The next one we have is for our Vice President, Teresa Leatherbarrow. And then the third one is to our President, Mr. Sean LeMay. Congratulations.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to the board goals and self-evaluation. Do we have the PowerPoint or the slides on that, or no?
It's just done in Board Docs.
It's in Board Docs? Okay. I am not going to go over in depth, but if everybody will go to 12F, as in Frank, and pull up the PDF that's there. Of course, I'm waiting for mine to open. So these are the board goals that we set at the beginning of the year last year. This is kind of where we ended up. This is probably going to be the last time we're going to do it this format, in this way. We're going to move forward in a minute here. I'm going to talk about the next way that we're going to move. And of course, at our retreat, we were talking about doing goals and those values there. But I wanted to present this, and this is new. I apologize. This was not in your board packet over the weekend. So I won't spend too much time on it here. We did try and fill in, where we ended up here at the end of the year to kind of give a basis. You'll see things like, service liaisons to the PTSA and other meetings, submitting reports. We mostly succeeded in that area, so we still have some room for growth in that one. Showcasing the district work, we did have art, technology, and science that was presented over the year. Responding to individuals, that continues to be a board priority to make sure that we let every individual know that we thank them for touching the board, coming to us, talking to us. We had 2 community forums this year. We visited all the schools, and I believe we did succeed with having at least 3 board members at all visits, which I believe that's the first time in quite a while. So that's an accomplishment in itself. We did invite leaders of the union. We met several times with the WTA. We monitor and review annual wellness reports. So I'm not going to go through all of these specifically and dive into the details here. I'll leave these to you to review and mull over in your spare time. This is good bedtime reading, I'm sure. We've got some areas that we could still work on to improve, which leads us into our next new way of doing board evaluation. So effective tonight, everybody now has, well, you did it before, but we were not asking you to do anything with it. But effective tonight, starting tonight, before the next board meeting, we'd ask that all board members log back into the Super Eval system, where we evaluate the superintendent. And there's a drop down at the top left. I emailed you guys a few weeks ago when I was pointing out the superintendent's evaluation. There's a drop down right there that says board evaluation. And the domains will change, the rankings will change, but the format will be very similar to doing the superintendent's evaluation. And it will go through all the various domains and ask us how we think as board members we feel we're doing in the various domains and categories. And from that, we can put together a summary that will help us to formulate our board goals that we will come to address probably in the August-September time frame. So if there's any...
When is the deadline that you'd like that done?
Before the next regular board meeting.
I said the next board meeting, but I know the next board meeting is the reorg meeting, and I know that can be kind of chaotic. I'd like to make that the stretch goal, though, if we could all get that done by then. It's July 1st, which means only 2 weeks. I'm not mandating it, but I would love to see that as a stretch goal, see if we could get that, and then, whoever the the board president is moving forward on that, at least we'll have the data at their fingertips to help construct the goals and whatnot moving forward. And gives us a good talking piece. You know, now we'll have some concrete data of how we think we did with a little better structure. And of course, with the retreat that we had this past spring with the assistant superintendents, the superintendent, and us, we are be able to start to formulate some better goals moving forward, as well as the new strategic planning that's going on. So, any question or comments on this year's board goals and review and what we're going to do going forward starting tonight? And I expect you all to log in tomorrow. Mrs. Leatherborough?
I just want to thank Mrs. Carey for going back in and checking all her records to update that progress sheet for us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We thank you for everything that you do. We would not function without you, so thank you, Mrs. Carey. The strategic planning update, information regarding the strategic planning. We had 2 board members that acted as representatives for us at the first meeting, Dr. McClary or Mr. Bornstein. Would either one of you like to comment on how that meeting went and what the future looks like?
Yes, I would just like to say that it was a very informative beginning meeting. There were representatives from all, excuse me, all sectors in the district, and we had the opportunity to set up monthly meetings going forward starting in September. And the biggest piece that I really want to stress is that we need continually throughout next year from board members and members of the community, we need feedback and input. So please make sure that whenever you're asked to respond to something or whenever you're asked to send forth some information to other individuals in your community area, your neighborhood, please do so, because if it's going to be a well-done strategic plan that involves the community, we have to involve the community. And we will be giving reports as we move along.
Yeah, nothing to add other than those monthly meetings are full-day meetings. So this is a commitment, but it's a good use of our time.
I just want to thank you both for committing to that and putting in the time on behalf of the board. It's a lot of work, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
It's been suggested that we make these actual liaison positions starting next month, so we'll vote on that next month. It should help with that commitment, but thank you for it. Dr. Martzloff, let's go on to your community update, please.
Thank you, Mr. LeMay. I just want to thank and recognize our entire school community for what truly has been a wonderful school year. We've had a lot of positives that have taken place across all of our schools, across all sectors of our school district. We were able to pass a new capital project that will provide a new music learning space to our secondary schools going forward. That was a terrific accomplishment. Again, our budget passed by a 5-to-1 margin, which is a record, at least for the last decade. Really, we've done a wonderful job, too, as a school board and as a district, reaching out to our community. We've had a number of community forums to discuss things. We've done advocacy by partnering with Erie County Association of School Boards to ask for changes in the law that are helpful to public education. And I just think overall it's been a highly successful school year, and I'd like to thank everyone for playing your role in that. It's very critical to the future success of all of our students, so thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion for the first reading of revised policies 1336, duties of the extra classroom activity fund central treasurer, and 5220, extra classroom activity fund as presented? Mr. Bornstein, is there a second? Mrs. Beeger, is there any discussion? This is a first reading, so we're not going to motion here. We're going to motion to table it.
I just have a question.
Yes.
In the packet, some of them say 5520, and then the last one says 5220. Was that just an error?
Yes.
Okay. It should be 5520?
520.
Okay.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion to table the revised policies 1336 and 5220 for a second reading and adoption at the July 1st organizational meeting as presented?
5520.
5520. I even have it wrong here. Mr. Mecca, second. Dr. Benader, thank you. That's the second. Any discussion on tabling it? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. The district goals for 2018-2019, Dr. Martzloff?
Yes, we've completed once again our district goals and activities progress report, and very pleased with our opportunity to complete a number of these goals, and happy to answer any questions that board members might have about any of the goals or the associated activities.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to resolve to approve the reserve funding as presented? Anyone? Mrs. Van Sice, thank you. Second? Mrs. Beeger, is there any discussion? All in favor? Oh, Mrs. Leatherbarrow?
I just want to thank whoever wrote the board description. It was very helpful to me. The breakdown of the different types of restricted, committed, assigned, unassigned. It was all very helpful to me, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matursky.
Figured it was you, but I wasn't sure.
I was going to guess that too. Thank you. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the tax tertiary funding as presented? Mrs. Van Sice, second. Mr. Mecca, thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mecca, I feel like I guilted you into that. Staring you down. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the resolution to enter joint agreement with BOCES and 19 districts for facility improvements as presented? Dr. McClary, is there a second? Mr. Bornstein, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. If you have any liaison reports, please make sure you get them to Mrs. Carey. Are there any legislative matters that anyone would like to discuss this evening? Nope. There are no curriculum matters to discuss this month. Would someone like to make a motion to reserve to approve the resolution for summer hiring as presented? Mrs. Leatherbarrow, second. Mr. Meyer, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agreement between the superintendent and the computer support technicians as presented? Mrs. Beeger, is there a second? Mr. Bornstein, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. The Facilities Improvement Plan update, Dr. Martzloff.
Yes, we're in the process of completing our architectural plans for the capital project that was approved by our voters in December, and we'll be submitting those plans to the State Education Department for their approval, which will hopefully come in the next 6 to 8 months.
Great. Any questions, comments? Dr. Martzloff, I'm going to turn it right back over to you for the Special Needs and Student Activities report, please.
Certainly happy to answer any questions board members might have. This goes through things such as our classification rates and other matters that relate to our special education program, and happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone have a request or matter to discuss under the Committee of the Whole? I have one that I would like to bring up. I sent an email out on this to let you all know. It was regarding the consent agenda item, the Special Needs and Student Activities Summary Report that we asked for about I want to say it was 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, that we asked to start getting these summaries. If you noticed in this month's board packet, it was absent. There is question as to, do we want to continue getting this summary, as it is time consuming to produce this report, and if so, is the information in it the information we're looking for? Would we like to change it? Would we like to get other different information? Or would we like to eliminate it altogether from the board packet moving forward? I open this up to general discussion. Mrs. Leatherborough.
Two thoughts. I guess the first thought being that I know I raised this 2 years ago, was it now? Because we would previously just get a list of all of the cases minus the student's name. And from a board member perspective, trying to understand what my role is in viewing that and approving that, I was looking for some guidance as to, why is it that the state is asking me to look at this? So if there's any perspective you can give to me towards that, it might help me to gauge whether or not I need a summary report. Does that make sense?
Sure. I think the idea of the summary report was just to try to boil it down so it'd be more understandable and digestible, if you will, for board members versus, like you said, having to look through many, many pages of information to try to understand what's going on across the district when it comes to students with special needs. I had spoken to Mr. Scanzuzzo actually on budget vote day about this particular summary report, and he expressed that it's something that takes a great deal of time, energy, and effort from his staff, and asked if it's something that we could consider not providing at that time. I agreed to that, and so that's why it's not in there tonight, but it doesn't mean we couldn't provide it for the future. I think it's important to know from the board what you're really looking for. Are there certain key items that are critical for the board to have summarized? Would it be something that could be summarized every other board meeting, or once a quarter, or twice a year, or once a year? Whatever the case may be, would just sort of balance out all of the other demands I think Mr. Scanzuzzo has within his own office. So I want to be sensitive to that, but I also want to be sensitive to preparing the information that the board needs and wants for their packet, so they have accurate information to review and look at. So I'm open to any kinds of ideas that might lead us to that solution.
Dr. McCleary?
I think the page that I would like to see continued is probably the first page that basically has just number of meetings of X, and this kind of meeting there were 3, and this one, just that page. Is that considered part of the summary, or is that?
That is the summary.
It's the summary.
That's what was
So
deleted.
that,
Whole summary.
okay. So I'm only, that one page, not all the rest, like what we see here.
The rest is what we have to
We're
give.
required by law to see that.
Mr. Mecca?
So this is, aside from the discussion that we're having about the summary report, this is the first time I remember seeing this special education school district data profile. I don't know if this is a new thing or if I just don't remember it from last year, but it's really interesting and a good summary of the data that, once a year is nice to see. In terms of what we need in addition to what's required in order to approve the CSE recommendations at the table, I would be more interested not knowing how many meetings there were of this type and how many were initial referrals and how many were rejected. I'm not so interested in that. I don't think we have concerns about the special education rate and being overly good or overly bad, in my own opinion. I think we're right where we need to be. What I'm more interested in knowing about is the situations where people are dissatisfied with the service that we're providing, which we talked about previously in committee of the whole, knowing how many due process cases we have out there in the ether that are unresolved. And maybe at some point even having a summary of those so that we understand what the issues are involved.
I think we can provide that. I know earlier this school year there was, I want to say, 22 impartial hearings going on, and recently it was reduced by a great deal. And where are we at today, Mr. Scanzuzzo? Two?
That's great.
We're down to 2 impartial hearings, so we're trending in the right direction. But I think it would be important to share that information with the board, and perhaps I would recommend either later in the summer or early fall that we have our attorney that works with Mr. Scanzuzzo's department come in and speak with the board in executive session about some of these items, what leads to the impartial hearings, what has helped resolve some of those impartial hearings, and things of that nature, to give the board a more exact view of what's taking place.
Mrs. Van Cise.
And I think to go kind of also with monitoring, overseeing, and maybe some of the concerns, I would be interested in not having that summary page. That summary page really doesn't tell us anything except how many reevaluations, annual reviews. I'm in the special ed world, and that doesn't mean anything even to me in another district. It is our job that we have to approve every IEP, basically. So I have no problem doing that. What I would love to see annually is maybe just once a year, just like we receive the graduation report. I would love to see maybe the percentage of students in the different programs that we offer, such as the CT program, the 15-1, the 12-1-1 self-contained. It's just the percentage of students broken out for elementary, middle school, and high school. And then just the second piece, and I know this is something you have to report to the state anyways, is graduation. Just the graduation type that the student's receiving, as well as their career plan, whether it's employment, 2-year, 4-year college, that kind of piece. Oh, okay. So if that isn't too much trouble, I think that then gives us a great way to monitor and just see where we're at with our students with disabilities on an annual basis, just once a year.
Mr. Mecca?
Just jumping on the one point that Suzanne made, the summary data that we receive now, I think would be useful in certain scenarios, but I don't think is useful in our scenario. I think if we had an abnormally high rate of special education, and if you look across the different districts, ECASB provides us with this information where we can make comparisons to ourselves and other districts. Our percentage of special education rate is actually really good. It's not overly low, it's not overly high, but let's say our special education rate was 25% or something, 20%. In that scenario, I think we would want to know, what meetings are happening and how many of these are being approved for special ed service for the first time? How many meetings do we have kids that are receiving more restrictive services? These kinds of things. If our costs were escalating, at a huge rate for special education, we would want to know these things. But I don't think those things are any concern for us at the moment. That's just my own opinion.
Mr. Meyer?
Yeah. I'm not sure where I sit on this request. I guess I have to think it over a little bit more, but I'm curious to know, and maybe Mr. Scanzuzzo, maybe you can speak to it, in terms of it being time-consuming, in what respect, and do you feel that it's interfering with either your ability or maybe the ability of some of your staff to work on other issues at an important time, or maybe it's too time-crunched? I don't know. If you could speak to that, please.
Yeah, what was brought to my concern is there is really no benefit to doing this on a semi-annual or semi-monthly basis. This would have to be done monthly in order for it, because the report is based on this month's information. So the issue is more about filtering in this program. This program does not allow an option to filter and pull information in Frontline. It'll give you a summary, but they do this by like counting, you know, all the annuals, all the CPSC referrals, it's time consuming, and it takes, you know, 2 of our staff members in our clerical department to put this draft together. It takes about 2.5 hours, and it doesn't seem like much, but when, you know, it's a lot of time to kind of have them working together when they're doing so many different things, to be able to coordinate time to put this this summary report together. So if we wouldn't do it bi-monthly. If we're going to continue to do it, it would be the way we've had it in the past, monthly, because it wouldn't make any sense to do it any other way.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I guess my concern with this is when I first joined this board here 4 years ago, we were getting literally a one-page title page that said the board has been presented with the following data, and the board was never presented with any data. So I kind of put my foot down and said, we need this data. If we're supposed to be voting on this, if this is what the law states, we need this data, we need to be viewing this data. I was then given this data, and this data, for those of you that have actually looked at it, some months can be as low as 15, 20 pages. Other months I've seen it as high as 80 to 100 plus pages. And especially in those larger months, I mean, you're talking, if we're doing our due diligence and actually prepping like we're supposed to, that is literally hours worth of reading. So I'm Mr. Scanzuso, and I mean no disrespect at all, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate and spin it around and go, either we've got to read it, which is gonna take us several hours, or somebody has to give us a summary that takes them several hours. My personal, and this is just my opinion, is that I would like to still see some sort of a summary page. Now, what that summary page entitles, really it's got to be on that data that's being given to us. So if there's 100 pages of data, what's the summary of it? And I guess we kind of came to this idea of, you know, how many meetings, how many ads, how many removals, how many, you know, maybe denials, changes, maybe we, you know, highlight it. I don't know. And I'm really open to this, to somehow find a way to summarize this data. But if the state requires us to vote on this on a monthly basis, then I have to ask for a summary of this report on a monthly basis. Although I do like the ideas that other members have mentioned here about, you know, presenting this on a yearly basis, and I'd love to see more in-depth reporting and stuff like that on that. I understand the dilemma, though, that you're in, and I don't know if there's a way to get IT involved. And one would think, at least knowing databases and IT world from my back end, there should be a way that every time you make a change in that given month, that it should fleck a little ticker somewhere that you can then pull that summary at the end of the month. One would think.
So,
it doesn't necessarily mean that exists, though.
So I think we have to stop using the word, maybe even, just to kind of clarify, summary. Because that front page is not a summary of anything other than it's telling you how many annual reviews there are, how many reavails. Your job isn't to look at that as a summary, as any time of supplemental, oh, I have this page, so now I understand. Your job is still to go through irregardless of those different IEPs. So if I hear that it's taking away time and really we're putting energy into something that we really don't need and shouldn't have because it's bypassing, I don't want to hear that we're using that, because that's really not a summary. And I can just tell you, in my position, I'm sitting at the table, I'm doing my job, I'm holding my meetings, I'm making recommendations that I know are for that student. I would expect that my board is approving what my job is for the benefit of that student and those students' needs. So I'm not asking you to spend 3 hours. I'm asking you to go through it and just make sure that it kind of makes sense. But, you know, to hear that it's all this time, what does it matter whether there's 50 annual reviews one month or there's 12? And I'm going to tell you, there is like 280 in 3 months that are going on during certain months because we have what's called annual review season. Other months it's going to be very light there. Therefore, you have that difference with 15 to 20 pages one month. You have 150 in another month. I think as a board, this is just our job to be going through it, not nitpicking, but just glancing and reviewing it, that's our job. But the summary page, to hear that there's some time and effort being put into that shouldn't have any type of weight on us as board members. That's just side work that I really believe, by hearing this concern, I don't feel it's necessary nor appropriate to do at this time. I think I would like to see an annual report. We get to see the compliance report every year as well, based on the indicators that the state's coming into the district and honing in on every year. And then we continue listening to concerns and having that discussion, if need be, with our district lawyer. I believe that that is sufficient.
As I mentioned before, what's on that summary report, I'm open to. I wasn't saying the current report had to stay. Mrs. Beeger?
I think the spirit behind that summary report when we asked for that information was that we wanted to make sure as a board we were doing our due diligence and making sure that the work that needed to be done was done. That if there were concerns coming from a special ed community, that we had our eye on what was happening with meetings. And I think that while looking at that month after month, to Mrs. Van Sice's point, that's just business as far as when those meetings happen, and I don't think that necessarily helps us to understand, if there's more months, more meetings one month than the other, that something is askew. I think for us, to Mr. Becca's point, we should keep our eye on where Williamsville stands as far as norms in the state, as far as how many referrals we're seeing. We want to make sure that we don't have a super high referral rate or, super high referral rate or very low referral rate. We want to make sure that we're doing our best by children, but I don't think that this particular summary helps. I do think in some kind of annual report, that kind of information to see how we are performing as compared to other schools in the state would be helpful. And I do like seeing the IEPs with names selected. I think that helps us to really see the work that's being done in the district. I don't know how you could summarize that, because every page and every case looks really different.
Mr. Mecca?
I hope I'm not too redundant, but I really agree with the last two comments from Mary and from Suzanne. Also, being in the business, generally of special education, God bless you. It is kind of an oversight role that the Board of Education has, and I think that in general we're putting our trust and faith in the people that are making these decisions, that these are the right decisions for children. And I think our viewpoint should be, 10,000 feet above and looking at the larger issues that are involved. We've never, in the 4 years that I've been on the board, pulled any particular case from CSE and said, we're not going to accept this, we're not going to vote in favor of this. I think it's important that that's there as a safeguard in the event that a parent were to appeal to us and say, hey, something fishy happened with my meeting, this is not what we agreed to during our special education meeting, but this is what they're putting down on the paper. In that case, if we were to find something like that, perhaps we would pull one specific individual case. But we're not going to find that looking through the 85 pages of paperwork or the summary report either. I think we have to focus on things that we want to see improvement on. And I think, just from my own perspective at this point, is I hear complaints about how responsive they feel the district is when there is a need in some situations. Other situations, you hear it's fine. So, and we know that there are situations where people complain and there's a complaint process. And I think we ought to track the data associated with that complaint process and see where we stand. Why are we hitting these issues? Where are the difficult spots for us? What could we do better? And those kinds of issues. A summary report isn't really going to help us in that respect, which, I think is what they were both saying.
Mrs. Leatherborough?
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Scanzuso, for bringing this to Dr. Martzloff's attention. To me, it shows leadership to be able to say, look, I've been in this role now for a year, and this is something that, well, almost a year, close, right? And this is something that I think maybe we could do differently. And I also have respect that you didn't want to just change it like November, a month in, that you gave it the time. So from my perspective, I kind of see it as knowing what we're looking at, and if a board member has that education background, it's like we have a little bit of an advantage of knowing what we're looking at. But also now that I've sat in this role for 3 years, I realize even though I initially requested the summary, it wasn't really to fulfill the purpose that I thought it was going to fulfill. The purpose was more, I agree with what Mr. Mecca spoke to. So my recommendation to my fellow board members would be to follow the advice of our leadership and discontinue that report.
Any other comments?
Yeah, if I can, I recommend that we just put this onto their next agenda for, I guess, a decision. We can tell Mr. Scanzuso if we'll need that going forward. I personally just want to reflect on it a little bit and go back and look at some of them and see what, if any, value, I think I may derive from it moving forward in consideration of some of the comments that I've heard tonight. So it's something for me to think about. And I know at least one of the board members tonight said it was useful to her. So I'd like some time to reflect.
Any other comments, questions? Would we be in agreement to officially vote on this next month? Put it down as a actual board item during the reorg meeting, which probably is the appropriate place to vote on it.
I think that's good. I'm in support of that.
Yes. Okay.
Fine.
I see 5 nods, so yep, okay, we'll add it then there. Thank you. Any other committee of the whole items to share tonight? Yep. Are there any other correspondences anyone would like to discuss? We will now conduct our second public expression with the same rules as outlined from our first public expression. Anyone wishing to address the board should go to the podium and sign in, please, at this time. I see a flock of people coming to the podium. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the executive session to discuss employment matters relating to a particular person's superintendent evaluation and school security? Mr. Borenstein, is there a second? Mrs. Beeger, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Beautiful.
Someone like to make a motion to return the regular board meeting to public session? Dr. McClary, a second. Dr. Venator, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Our next board meeting is the organizational board meeting that will be held on Monday, July the 1st, 7 p.m. here in district office. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting? Dr. Venator, second. Mr. Borenstein, all in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Good night.